Okay, so welcome back, everybody. We're almost done, and I've saved the more interesting topics for the last. This seems to be one of the more popular ones. It's about gangs, and so what we're going to start out with is, well, what is a gang? A gang is any ongoing organization, association, or group of three or more persons, whether it be formal or informal. It is also having as one of its primary activities the commission of committing crimes. And it's having a common name or a common identifying sign or symbol. And gangs usually have whose members, individually or collectively, engage in or have engaged in a pattern of criminal activity. There are four elements to gang activity. It involves three or more persons, and they have the common goal of committing crime, and it's all in the name of a sign or a symbol that they usually identify with. And all of them have been engaged in patterns of crime, usually within their criminal history. So, who are gang members? Who is the gang members? Well, a gang member is any person who participates in or with a criminal street gang, or has knowledge that the gang members engage in crime, or promotes criminal conduct by members of the gang. Here's a chart. It's an older one, but in 1998, 75% of gang members were 15 to 24-year-olds. And here's just a chart, just to give you an idea. I know it's an older chart. We're trying to get a more updated one here as soon as we can. But just go ahead and take a minute here and look at it. And same thing with the next slide we're going to go through. I want you to just go ahead and take a look at the percentages. So a lot of parents and people will ask, well, what does the gang give the kids that we can't? Well, the gang gives them a surrogate family. It gives them self-esteem. It gives them recognition and protection. It gives them the ability to intimidate others and to feel powerful. And usually, it goes with kids that usually have no alternatives. And it does affect the poorer communities of our society. So they offer money. It's a differential association, and it seems exciting. We've all seen the videos. We've all seen the rap videos that glorify this sort of thing. It makes them seem, and we've also seen movies where it makes them seem like they're this, you know, excuse me. It makes them seem like, in the Hispanic community, you're viewed as this Aztec warrior type of person, that you are reclaiming the old Aslan, the land of our, cultural ancestry and everything, and it gives them this identity, and that's what appeals. The tattoos, you see the tattoos, it makes them look, there's sort of a romantic feel to it, and that, and they give them a sense of false pride, really. I mean, because they're not really working towards any common good of any type. But they brainwash the younger generations into believing that they're a part of something. They're really not. It's a pyramid scam. There's only one or two people at the top that are benefiting from this, and the rest of the people have to put in dirt or work. So there's nothing glorious about this in real life. Going to prison is not glorious. And when people go to prison, they come out and they are just, wrecks. I mean, look at them. Look at some of them that we've known. I've had some in my family and everything. They come out addicted to drugs. You can't trust them. You can't trust them around your kids or nothing like that. I mean, who knows what these people are capable of? I mean, let's face it, nice people do not go to prison. But yeah, so it offers them this alternative, to doing things the right way in society and everything. They make them seem like they got all the money and the girls and the nice clothes. But believe me, that only lasts so long, I mean, I don't know of any gang that really provides a good retirement or a 401k, you know what I mean? So, but just in a nutshell, this is what appeals to kids in a young mind that's so impressionable and can be easily used as a tool in the devil's workshop, So, you got to really keep an eye out for these things. They affect all races, affects all creeds. And, I know I said money and poor income families. That's usually where it starts. But, it's got its fingers in all assets in life. So, don't turn a blind eye just because a kid lives on the good side of town and dresses nice and he might not be in a gang. You don't know that. So, you just got to keep a close eye out for the signs. And we're going to discuss those signs here further in these slides. Okay, so the levels of gang involvement. Well, let's start from the very top of the pyramid. Like I said, you got your hardcore veterano type of OG, which stands for original gangster. These are the older guys. These are the guys that have been through a lot. They've done a lot of work for their gang, and they've achieved the ultimate prize of going to prison or I guess, but I mean, I haven't really met too many, ones that are living up on the hill, usually they get used up and thrown away, there is no pension, there is no 401k, there is no free health care. So yeah, but usually at the top, it's the hardcore veterano type of OG gangsters. Next, under that, you have the deeply committed members, and these are, anywhere from the 20 to 30-year-olds. They've usually been to the pen once or twice already. They're not yet on their third strike, ready to do life, but they're somewhere in between that, And then you got regular members. Those are anywhere from, the young 16 to 25-year-olds. They're in it, and I mean, but they're not as deep as the deeply committed members or the hardcore leaders. Under that, you have admitted members, and these are your youngsters. These are your peewees. They're, maybe high school seniors all the way to, freshmen usually. And then, they're in the gang, they're brand new, and they're the ones that are usually recruiting the younger ones that are like in junior high and even low grades in high school and stuff. and that's under them, which are, the hangouts, or otherwise known as the wannabes, or the associates. They're not quite been jumped in yet to a gang, because usually to get in a gang, you got to be jumped in. And, that means you got to go through a gauntlet style of hazing to initiate you into the gang. It's more of a rite of passage. And, so these are the levels of gang involvement. And believe it or not, at the top, they're hardcore. They're the leaders. They're the ones that are calling the shots and stuff. But what you have to really kind of worry about are the admitted gang members and the hangouts. Those are the ones that you're going to be dealing with the most as a school campus officer. And these, believe it or not, are the more volatile of all of them. The hardcores, they're mature, and a lot of them are cool, and you can usually have a good rapport with them and come to an understanding as men or adults with each other. You can, there's a mature understanding of maturity between, the ages here. But as you get towards the admitted members and the wannabes, these kids got something to prove. They've got a name to make for themselves. And what a better way than, hey, shooting somebody with a badge and a uniform, anytime they score a hit on a police officer or, even a security guard, hey, that's big kudos in the pen. That's a big badge of honor. That's like winning the Congressional Medal of Honor to them. So you have to really keep an eye out and everything. Now, I'm not saying that all of them are out to get you. That's not what I'm saying. Because most gang members usually target other gang members. They don't, there's incidences of bullying and stuff like that, but nothing really, usually I've never seen it in my, years working as a school campus officer, but I'm sure it happens, but not on the big, like them going after each other. So, I would know that they were gang members, and they knew that I would know. But we would have this little understanding that, hey, I'm not going to come after you. I'm not going to, be watching you with a, discerning eye in the clouds at all hours. You know what I mean? And you could tell the ones that didn't want any trouble from you versus the punks that just want to run amok, and they just hate authority, everything about it, and they're going to do everything they can to disrespect you. So, it does help to have a good rapport with them. I'm not saying be their buddy or anything like that, but you can have an understanding that, this is a school, and whatever you do out there, that's you. But in these fences, we have to follow rules, and that includes them too. And don't show them any leeway on those rules. I've had dress code violations where, I pull them aside and I'm like, hey, man, what are you doing, man? You know better than that. Come on. You can't be sporting your colors out here on, in the schoolyard and everything. What are you doing? And I got to report you. I don't want to, but I got to. It's sort of my job. So, put that rag away. Don't let me see it, and of course you got to report them, because if something does happen, you don't want to be held liable or get in trouble. But okay, enough of me preaching on this. Let's go ahead and let's head into the structure of the gang, which is the big meat and potatoes of it. So let's go ahead and click on next, and we'll see what that's about. So the structure of a gang. A gang is composed of persons who are members, associates, youngsters, or veterans, ranging in ages from 9 to 50 years of age. A person becomes a member by completing specific requirements, such as committing certain crimes, or by being jumped in, which is, like I said earlier, being beaten by any number of current members. Among these members will be the hardcore or OG group, which leads, advises, and commits the majority of the gang crimes. Or they're the ones calling the shots for the youngsters to do it. They're the more serious ones. Revolving around the members are associates who either haven't become members yet or do not want membership, but enjoy the lifestyle. They just, love dressing up, playing dress up. And next are the youngsters. They're the babies or the peewees. These are juveniles 19 to 13 years old who idolize the older members and relish being around them, and someday hope to be one of them. These youngsters are responsible for much of the gang's crimes as a means of gaining acceptance. The veterans or older members are usually 25 to 35 years old, and in this group, which is to entice new members into the gang through misrepresentation of how glorious gang life can be. Veterans are not always actively involved in the commission of the crime, but promote crime through an advisory capacity. In most gangs, there is no out or retirement. You may slow down, but you're always still in. In Hispanic gangs, it is not unusual to see multi-generational members. Generations can go as far back as World War II, so kind of keep that in mind. A gang, for the most part, has a loose-knit chain of command. However, some gangs are very sophisticated and have a hierarchy and follow almost a monarchy or military style of chain of command. Usually this is decided by the survival of the strongest mentality, and the most brutal usually win the crown. Just want to kind of, go into this a little bit. I know a lot of the school officials and everything, they do their very best to get children out of these things. And you do your best, you try to help as much as you can. But as soon as they walk out of those doors, they're right back into the life that they've always been in. And it's usually because they're family. You often wonder, why is this kid in a gang? And then you see the family come in, and you're like, okay. This is a passed down thing. So, can the school beat out what the family wants? I don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe, maybe not. Some cases, yes. More cases, no. And that's just the way it is, so, but yeah, okay, let's go ahead and let's move on to the cycles of a gang. A criminal street gang will go through stages or cycles of activity. The most visible cycle occurs when a particular gang is what they call active. The active phase is easily determined when persons gangbang or engage in a group or criminal activity. When a gang is observed kicking back, drinking, loitering, fighting, and violating the law, this gang is considered to be active. A gang is determined inactive when it is not currently engaging in antisocial or criminal activity. This usually occurs when a number of members are either dead or incarcerated, or placed on formal probation, or membership has otherwise declined. A gang can become active with a matter of hours from this cycle, so beware. Just because something slowed down, that doesn't mean it isn't there. Dormancy occurs when membership and association falls very low, either as a result of legal intervention or a loss of interest by the members or death. A lot of them have been killed. This loss of membership results in an extended period of time when no criminal acts are observed or reported. When a specific gang or any of the above-mentioned reasons no longer has active members or associates, it is considered then extinct. And this usually happens after, many years of no activity. People have moved. Courts can place injunctions on gang members, meaning they can place restraining orders against each other, where they're not allowed to hang out with other gang members, and this further disperses them. It has either one or two reactions. It either strengthens them, or the name dies altogether. But the bigger ones that you hear of, like the Latin Kings, MS-13, Florencia 13, Logan, people like that, yeah, they're the ones that have withstood the test of time, and actually their members have grown stronger as a result of spreading out. I mean, when the Bloods first started out in L.A., they started out in L.A. I want to believe back in the 60s and 70s, after the Black Panther movement. And, now they're seen everywhere. You got an East Coast faction of the Bloods, and you got a West Coast faction of the Bloods. You see Bloods in Missouri. You see them in Louisiana. You see them in New York, Chicago. So, that's just another thing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So the gang philosophy. Although many believe gang membership can be compared to a sports team, nothing could be further from the truth. A sports team does wear the same type of clothing and calls itself by a singular name and represents a certain geographic area. However, it does not zealously wear its colors nor hide them from view of parents or law enforcement. A sports team member openly and respectfully proclaims his team name to all. He does not illegally write it on walls or deny it when confronted by school officials, police, probation, or concerned family members. A sports team plays for the honor and regard of its region. It does not deface, destroy, or terrorize an area of public property, claiming it as its territory, barrio, or hood. Finally, a sports team's actions are legal activities enjoyed by fans, not criminal acts that victimize citizens and instill fear in the area of its residents. Gangs recruit gang members at early ages, focusing on the young, easily influenced people who are offered false promises and distorted visions of grandeur. These youthful prospective gang members are lured from their homes, kept out late in the evening, given alcoholic beverages and drugs, and ridiculed for desired sleep. They are repeatedly told former friends and family are not important. Laws were made to be broken, and education is unnecessary. And the only family that they can count on are their homies in the gang. An extended period of this type of influence could cause a person to forsake all previous values and goals that they've had in their life. And as you can tell by the pictures, gangs influence every type of child, every type, every race, every creed, every upbringing, and every social status. You got them in every race, you got them everywhere, and you've got all of them, okay? Don't think that at your school that Nazis don't exist there. They do. Don't think that Bloods don't exist there. They do. Don't think Hispanic gang members or Asian gang members don't exist there. They do. If you don't notice them, it's because they're hiding very well. Okay? There's even been incidences where criminal gangs have ordered their younger generations not to get tattoos and wear the clothing, to fly under the radar of law enforcement. So, this is something that you got to be prepared to see and everything, and you got to go by based on the other signs, not just clothing and tattoos. and hand signs. Okay, you got to witness. You got to be prepared to be able to recognize all the signs. Gangs like to use nicknames, street names, and attempt to gain a personality and remain anonymous at the same time, so as to avoid detection or prosecution from law enforcement. They also employ the use of fear as a controlling measure. A gang coerces with non acceptance and physical harm if their offensive doctrine is not followed. Gang members exist solely to promote their respective group by using these philosophies to entice impressionable youths into their ranks. Graffiti is one method of locating a gang area. Gang members use graffiti to broadcast the gang's name and members. Traditional Hispanic gangs use block style letters and Old English script, which often appear neat and artistic. Um, African American gangs and white gangs, heavily, and heavy metal type gangs, and recent Hispanic, Crips, Bloods, um, mutant gangs, and all use sloppy print or longhand. Asian gangs will either type, most often the paint or marker ink will be the same color claimed by the gang. So Bloods, they'll do red, Crips will do blue. A gang will mark its center and boundaries. Normally, the gang's name or initials will be followed by the gang member's street names. Usually, the first name written identifies the writer of the particular mural. The gang's initials could be preceded by the letter B for barrio, and the initials followed by an R for Rifamos. I don't know if I said that right. We rule this area, basically. Boundaries and areas dispute are commonly seen with numbers crossouts by rival gangs. Observing persons wearing the same color clothing, having identical haircuts, which are usually shaved, or style of dress and speaking habits could also be indicate of a gang area. Possession of the same color rag, pressed in creased bandanas, is common gang trait. And you'll be able to tell if it's a gang bandana or if it's a, landscaper's bandana that he's using to, wipe the sweat from his hard work. My grandfather had one. And no, he wasn't a gang member. He was a World War II veteran that won the Bronze Star fighting the Germans. So, you'll be able to notice, theirs is more worn as a uniform. It's not for work purposes. Same thing with Dickies and Ben Davis and all this stuff, which would, normally be work attire for people like my grandfather, but to them, they wear it as a uniform to identify themselves in these gangs. It's just some graffiti to look out for, the type of style, and we've all seen this. We've all seen movies. We've seen Boys in the Hood. We've seen Colors and American Me and things like that. It's very similar in style, and so just go ahead and take a look and just kind of get used to it. And we'll go through some of them here. I think it's about 2 or 3 slides here. Now we're going to go over some of the misconceptions of gangs. The most common misconception about gangs is gangs aren't bad. They protect our neighborhood. A young person will grow out of it, and membership ensures safety. And if a person cooperates with the police, the gang will get them. First, a gang is a criminal organization. Secondly, they endanger the neighborhood by committing crimes in it and drawing crime to it. Next, if a young person is allowed to stay in a gang, he will be indoctrinated, reducing chances for a productive life. Also, membership endangers friends and loved ones who could possibly be victims of cowardly gang beatings or drive-by shootings. Last, police cooperation and successful prosecution eliminates gang members and tells them you are not intimidated, and encourage others to speak up and seek help. Gang prevention. An effective method of combating a gang is removing graffiti immediately upon its discovery. In not permitting graffiti to remain on your campus, you are telling the gang that they are not wanted and will not be tolerated. Another means of gang eradication involves reporting gang activity, cooperating with law enforcement, and assisting with prosecution of gang crimes. New laws have been enacted making gang participation illegal. These laws invoked hard punishments but cannot be enforced without the victim or witness's cooperation. Most importantly, campus security officials must recognize signs of gang association their students may display. If a student continuously wears a particular color of clothing or style of dress, has friends who begin controlling his or her actions, and no longer abides by campus rules, you, as a school official, should evaluate this behavior for gang association. So what is gang crime? Well, gang crime is gang related, and the suspects are gang members and are involved in a crime. It is motivated by gangs. It's gang motivated. And it is any crime committed at the direction of, for the benefit of, or in association with a street gang. Gangs are a part of America. They are in the workplace, they are in the military, they are in the police and law enforcement, they're in politics, and they're in your school. Right here, I want to say this gentleman was Corporal. I want to say his name was Corporal Aguilar. He was from a Northern California gang, and he joined the Marine Corps and actually did a tour in Iraq, I believe. Well, he came home and got reassociated with his gang, fell back into the ranks, and opened fired on, I believe, 3 police officers, killing one of them with a SKS Russian rifle. And he was in a poncho one night, and police officer drove by, thought it looked kind of suspicious because he's just hanging out there in the corner with a poncho on. And as the police officer approached him, he opened fired on him, and the police officer didn't stand a chance. He was later, gunned down by the police. But I just want to make one thing mention right here. The Marine Corps does not train gang members. Okay, the Marine Corps and the remaining branches, the Navy, the Army, and the Air Force, are branches of honor, and they do not condone this activity at all. Okay, they are not for training these people, and their values are not the same values as gangs. These young men that do this are a disgrace to their uniform, they're a disgrace to our country, and they're a disgrace to everything that we stand for as United States Marines. Okay? And there is nothing, there is no connection at all. Okay? Now, upon saying that, I was in the Marine Corps, and I knew a lot of young men that did come from some pretty rough areas of the country. And I mean, they were in a gang. They were members of a gang. But once they got into the military, they changed. They changed. You know, they saw that there was a better life out there for them, that there were people from all different races that they could call their brothers and sisters, and that had love for them. You know, so they left. That was just a part of their past. And a lot of these guys I know have wound up to do 20 plus years in the military. They're highly decorated. I mean, and they are a functioning part of our society. And they are the ones that keep you free and keep you safe at night. You know, a lot of these guys, they go on to become police officers and stuff. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, because, you know, the military, let's face it, you know, applies to usually the poor urban youth or, you know, the poor, you know, kids in the country. And when you do that, it just includes this type of culture, you know, until you get in there and discipline them and take that away from them. Once their homies aren't there for them anymore, then they've got to learn to adapt. They've got to learn to adapt to, and you know, you got to learn to become one. You know, you got to learn to drop your petty differences and become one and function as a unit. But I just wanted to throw that out there, that the Marine Corps does not make gang members, okay? And they do not, you know, the military doesn't, the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, they don't make these people, okay? In fact, it's a great way out for a lot of them, and it gives them kind of a second shot at life. But obviously, this young man didn't take that shot, you know, and for whatever reason, he did what he did, and now he's dead because of it. So, okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and move on. Gangs in schools is the next slide. So, gangs in school. Crime increases in schools and is related to the increase of gang presence. Studies of gangs reveal their negative impact on schools. 80% of gang members bring weapons to the school. 60% of them sell drugs. That's over half. 50% threaten or assault. And 70% admit their gang assaulted students. These are pretty high numbers, ladies and gentlemen, and this is why you can't let your guard down at all. Okay, you might think they're kids, but you know what? They're just as every bit of killer as any U.S. Marine. Okay, so you can't take that for granted. Your safety comes number one. Keep your head on a swivel and watch your six at all times. Okay, types of gangs. As you're going to see, there are all types of gangs. They come in every shape. They come in every color. They come from every background, every social status. You name it. There are Hispanic gangs, there are black gangs, Asian gangs, white gangs, there are Native American gangs, and they are pretty bad, trust me. They are, wow, they are pretty hardcore. There's tagging crews, party crews, posses, prison gangs. These are the more serious ones. Prison gangs, biker gangs. There's even female gangs, so they come in all shapes and sizes and all walks of life, okay? So don't think that just because you're in a good area of La Jolla that your area is going to be gang free. It's not, okay? Don't think because you're in the rich part of town that you're okay. It's still there. It's just well hidden more, okay? So, but you still got to be able to identify the characteristics and this activity that might be going on under the desk in your schools. So now we're going to discuss a little bit of the gang characteristics and how we can identify them and their activities. Number one is their clothing. As you can see, they all kind of wear the same type of uniformity. This is the, Blood Street gang here. As you could think, blood red, they all wear red, okay? I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. I think everybody these days knows who Bloods and Crips are. I can't imagine why you wouldn't know who they are. You know what I mean? They're in every part of TV. They're in songs, movies, everything, you name it. So, but clothing is one of their characteristics. Tattoos are another characteristic. Just like pictured here, we have an inmate. He's one of the higher ups that we've discussed, and he's from, I believe this guy's from the Texas Syndicate or from the Aryan Brotherhood. So, these are white supremacists, and they are there too. Don't think that just because you're in a school that has a lot of minorities that this activity doesn't exist. It does. Okay? And they're there, and white kids have to as I would say, loke up just like any other type of ethnic group. Okay? And they do. So don't take it, don't take it from granted that this is just a white kid and he's harmless. No, they're not. They're very ruthless. And under that nice shirt, they could have who they really are underneath that nice shirt that they're wearing. And of course, gang signs is another thing. This is what they use to identify each other with. Usually you'll see this as an enemy gang drives by them. That's when you'll see a lot of this stuff. And you got to learn to be able to identify it. And you got to take no tolerance on it. You got to report them to the administration as soon as possible. Okay? We cannot. The only way we're going to combat this, ladies and gentlemen, is by nipping it in the bud. That means if we see it, we roll strong on it to begin with and curb this activity. Graffiti is another big sign. So here's Barrio Chula Vista from San Diego. This is one of their identifying marks. You can tell it's like written in a restroom or in a gymnasium or something like that, but they'll use these type of codes. Another thing is they'll use numbers, like 1904 means San Diego, because 19 is, I believe, the letter S, and 04 is the letter D. Thus, for 1904 means SD, which means San Diego. That's kind of the new thing right now, and you got to be able to be, a little bit hip to it to understand it. They also go by zip codes or area codes. For instance, Ventura County's area code is 805. And you'll hear that a lot. We're 805 or 619 San Diego, or, 213 LA, and so, become familiar with this stuff, and nothing is by coincidence. You don't see numbers on the wall. Someone just didn't write them. They mean something. And so you got to be able to figure out what that means. So, recognize what number each letter of the alphabet represents, and it's like a decoding. You'll be able to decode and decipher in the encrypted message. Cycles of gang violence. They have loose bonds to a gang, threat from a rival gang, mobilization event, and most gang violence is retaliatory. Okay, it's because something's been done to them, or it's over turf. Escalation of activity, violent events, and of course, rapid de-escalation. As fast as it comes up, it usually goes down. So, those are some of the cycles of gang violence that you got to be able to identify. So why violence? Why do they use violence? Well, it links gang members together to a common bond. Sun Tzu in The Art of War liked to put this as death ground, meaning you give your soldiers no other option but to fight forward, because there is no option of retreat. A good example of that was on D-Day in World War II that you saw in the movie Saving Private Ryan. They had no choice but to fight forward into those lines. There was no retreat, into the, British Channel there. But violence is what links them together, and they form a common bond over it. And usually the higher members will put their people on death ground. Gangs motivate, they direct, and they sanction violence by its members. Respect is earned through fear and intimidation. The bigger bully you are and the more you control people, the more the gang is going to use that to their advantage. It gives this sense that they're this Barrio Aztec warrior, this cultural inheritance, or this rite of passage. And it's usually identifiable through race. They give the sense of being a fallen warrior. And they also use a lot of conflict mediation and peer mediation and gang truces. So what can I do as a campus security guard? I know it seems like a lot, okay? But number one, the one thing you can do is your job. Listen, look, and report any gang activity that you see at your school. Participate in a comprehensive community-wide approach. Attend meetings. And a full-service gang program should and must be implemented to expect results. Suppression, intervention, and prevention are the main components of what we should be doing as security officers and school staff members. The suppression part would involve law enforcement, prosecution, incarceration, and your role would be to identify the individual gang members and identify the gang activity on your campus. And of course, notify the police or law enforcement or probation of any such activity. You're going to get probation officers a lot, okay, at your school. And you'll know them. You'll get to know them. They're pretty unmistakable, so, get to know them. Get to know each other, build a good rapport with them, cooperate with them as much as you can, and give them any information that might be able to help them in their cases and stuff like that, So we're there to cooperate, and we're there to help the police, and so we need to do so. Now, this falls more on the school staff and everything, which is intervention. Intervention is your most important role, sublimation, and deflect the gang member or potential gang member to accepted activity. This falls more on the staff role. I mean, we don't really guide kids to do anything. That's mainly the staff's role and the administration's role. We're there to observe and report. But it is part of being able to work in the common good of everything to curb gang activity, and intervention is a big part of that. Now we're getting to what we do. The staff plays their games, we play ours, and ours is prevention. Be visible. Contact gang members. Be friendly and respectful, but you don't have to be their best friend. But we can all show each other respect, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make them inhuman. It doesn't mean that they're an animal. You need to treat them as a human being, okay? And everybody wants respect, and you do too. So, in order to get it, you have to give it, And I've had kids curse at me and call me all kinds of names, and I'm like, hey, am I not showing you respect? Why aren't you showing me a little respect? What did I do to you, to where we can't at least talk to each other civilly and they calm down, Usually you have to get them away from their buddies to do this too. Because they want to show off in front of their buddies. And anytime you deface them in front of their friends, that's probably the worst thing you could do. Don't do that, okay? If you want to talk to them, bring them separately, all right? Because they have strength in numbers, and they all feed off of each other, okay? Break that audience up, okay? That's one things I wanted to bring up here. Know the methods to communicate. Hand signs, tagging, and other unique methods. Know the leaders, and know the gangs, and know the members. The leaders and everything, and the older ones calling the shots. Hey man, what's up with this kid over here, man? I don't want to be stupid. I don't want to see him go to jail. You want to see him go to jail? Come on. We don't want that. Just tell your kid to, cool his jets a little bit, will you? Tell your homie to cool his jets. And set the limits. You're there to set limits. Okay? That does, we can be respectful, but we have to be stern. Okay? We have to enforce the rules. All right? We can't give any leeway on that at all. Communicate with school staff, law enforcement, and probation. We're all on the same team. We're all trying to do good in our community. We all need to talk to each other. Okay? So this is mainly for us here, prevention. This is mainly what we do here. This is our role. Okay, let's go ahead and click on next into developing a service program. Developing a full service program. That means recognize the need to investigate, form a team or committee, and conduct a full assessment. Set reasonable goals. Okay, you're not going to destroy the gang. Okay, that's, security just doesn't have that sort of power. We only have the power that we have in our area. Okay, and know and use community resources. That's a good one. Form community partnerships. Get to know your PTA members. Get to know, your school counselors, your psychiatrists, the teachers. Get to know the coaches, and things like that. These all help. and know the law. You know, go out there, take a law class, take a California Concepts of Law class in your community colleges. I mean, a lot of this stuff will open up your mind like you wouldn't believe. Believe me, you don't know how many times I tell people this. What you think the law is and what the law actually is are two different things. It amazes me how people think they know the law. You know, they really know next to nothing, and you can tell within 5 seconds of listening to them. Have a plan of action, okay? And carry out that plan, and of course follow it up. Okay, everybody, so remember, suppression, intervention, and prevention. Develop a policy and advertise it. Implement the program and periodic evaluation and assessments. Involve the students, staff, and administration. And engage it. Put it out there. So there we go. That is a section on gangs. You'll learn much more once you get out into the field and you gain a little bit more intelligence on it. But as always, stay safe and watch your six out there.